that. SZ Abados. Site Work 7. Anyway, what album was your first introduction to metal? Well, let's start at the beginning. So, I had a bunch of my cousins, older cousins, that were really into like classic rock stuff, like Alice Cooper and stuff like that. And Kiss and shit like that. So I was really, when I was real young, I was like really into that like kind of theatrical rock, classic rock kind of stuff. So, but I always thought the music was a little light for the image that they were portraying. I always felt that some kind of way. It's like, they don't really sound like they look, Because, you looked at Alice Cooper in like the 70s and it was pretty, for back then, it was pretty disturbing. But the music was kind of like light classic rock, saxophones and horns. Not to say that any of his albums are bad. I'm just saying that, Welcome to My Nightmare is a fantastic fucking record. But there's like saxophones and horns on it and stuff, But it's still a great record. So anyway, I had a bunch of cousins that were into that kind of stuff. Kiss and Alice Cooper and all that stuff. Then I was hanging out with my uncle. My uncle was a humongous pothead. And he was the one that actually gave me my first guitar. So I was hanging out with my uncle, and he had these stacks of albums, like 12-inch records, just in his room, just tons of them, okay? And I was sitting in his room. He hadn't given me the guitar yet, so I was playing his guitar, just screwing around, making all kind of racket. Didn't know how to play at the time, of course. And I got bored with it for a little while, so I started looking through all his records. And what I saw, really, the album that I saw going through all these albums will stay with me for the rest of my life. And still to this day haunts me. And that was the first Black Sabbath record with the witch in the house, that real creepy ass fucking cover. So, I'm looking at that, and I look at the back cover of them, standing by the cross and stuff, and they look all hippied out and shit. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this album cover artwork is kind of fucking scary. The witch in front of the house. It's a really creepy photo. So anyway, I'm like, what's this? And he's like, put it on. So, sitting there, put it on his turntable, and you hear the rain with the bell. And I was like, something's about to happen. And then they could kick into fucking Black Sabbath, the opening song on the record. And it's just one of the most evil riffs still to this day ever written. And the whole, what is this that stands before me, that whole thing. It's just a creepy ass song to open up a record with a creepy ass cover with the band's called Black Sabbath. So that was my first introduction to heavy metal. And after that, needless to say, I was hooked. So that was my first introduction to heavy metal. And then after that came the AC/DC, and then into Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, and it just snowballed from there. So yes, that was Black Sabbath in my uncle's bedroom, stumbling across the first Black Sabbath record that he had in his record collection, and looking at the cover and just being totally creeped out. And so was the music. So that was my first introduction to heavy metal. All right.